Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the next episode of StreamTime Sports. My name is Chris Stone. I'm the community lead, joined as always by our CEO, Nick Meacham. Now, Nick, we have a guest today, so I won't spend too much time with my banter, but this particular guest will have some inside feeling, some personal love for the things that mean so much to me. As an American football guy, Friday Night Lights is always sort of something special. I went on to be a D3 football player. I'm wearing my Wittenberg football top today. This individual knows a thing or two when it comes to high school sports, doing things with Division III football, but also doing things on a larger scale now with professional sports, Division I NCAA. And I think is a really interesting story given where they started, where they're at today, and then also just kind of thinking about the fragmentation that exists within sports media and being all over the place, different monetization models. So I've not given it away yet, Nick, but I don't know if there's anything else you want to add before I bring our guest in today.
Well, I guess just because we're playing a bit of a cryptic game, I'd say the other thing that is interesting about this person is also their location at the moment, because it's somewhere I've never been. I've always had it on my to-do list of traveled to, despite all the times I've visited the US. So hopefully they can give us a little bit of insight along the way about what's good about their location, because it's on my hit list in the next few years, that's for sure.
All right. Well, without further ado, I'll bring on our guest, who is the CEO and co-founder at FloSports, Mark Floreani. So, Mark, if I remember correctly, are you based in Austin?
Yeah, based in Austin, Texas.
All right. Well, not only do I have an affinity for high school football and D3 football, I also have an affinity for smoked barbecue meats. I live in a flat in London, so I have an electric smoker. It is not the same thing, but I have managed to smoke a few different things out of my balcony.
Man, the barbecue game in Austin, Texas has really gotten top notch. There's about 10 or 15 places now to go. So hopefully I'll take you guys out when you guys come to Austin, Texas. There's some great stuff. There's some great places.
I've even got some friends, Chris, that so they're Australian living in the UK, and then randomly they're just like, oh, we're on a trip to Austin this weekend. And why? They're just basically going to do the round the grounds of trying different barbecue meats. I'm like, wow. Oh, and I thought one of them was a vegetarian beforehand. So there you go.
Well,
it even turns people.
The airport, vegetarians coming in, carnivores going out. So,
yeah. Absolutely. Well, because, I think there's a really interesting story to tell here, Mark. I think maybe the first place to jump this off with is, we do have a large audience base in the US, but we also have a large audience base in Europe. So maybe for those that aren't familiar with FloSports, give them a little bit of a background, I think, as well, just to kind of explain the beginning origins of it, because it's something you and your brother started off. And if I understand correctly, you were just in a van driving around. So I think a little bit of the backstory into sort of what FloSports has become, but kind of where you guys took off from.
Yeah, awesome. So like today, FloSports is a sports media and technology company. We stream over 40,000 live events, produce hours of shoulder programming, and we actually build technology for what we call Tier 2 and Tier 3 sports. Why did we start here? Well, I ran track at the University of Texas. My brother wrestled at Cal Poly. And we were super passionate about our sports. We really cared about the growth of our sports. And we were very frustrated about the media exposure around our sports. And we thought that, hey, if there was a company that cared about these sports, they would grow. We also realized that it wasn't just track and field and wrestling. And we thought that, hey, if we could do this in track and field and wrestling and expand to other sports and leagues that didn't get the love that we thought they deserved, we'd have a pretty cool business. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, at the time in 2006, no one believed in us or the idea. ESPN was at 110 million households. And, the thought that track and field wrestling, these types of sports could be big, it just wasn't in the cards for most people, except I convinced one of my friends on the track team to give us $10,000. And that was a lot of money back then. And we bought a van, a conversion van, and me and my brother and a couple other co-founders, started FloSports. The beginning was me and Ryan Ponsonby, which was a co-founder of ours. We drove across the country, living out of the van, filming athletes, filming coaches, and just posting that online. And then we did that with wrestling and track and field. And the rest, I guess, is history from those early days living out of a van.
Even back then, you talk about creating content. Now we live in this creator economy world that has this whole new economical world and industry that exists today. Were you even?
I could have been an influencer.
You still are. You still can be, Mark. But were you guys looking at? Was it primarily just on your own platform and then having to publishing on there, trying to create an audience from scratch, or were you also posting in different places at the time?
Yeah, so almost all of the stuff was on our own platform. But we post a little bit on social media back then. It was 2006, but yeah, we filmed our travels. We filmed a lot of things. What people are doing now, we were doing in 2006, following around athletes. Just going. One summer, I went to Europe on the European track circuit that no Americans have ever seen, and I'd go get Belgian waffles with athletes, go on train rides with athletes and agents and tell the behind the scenes. And that really kind of really resonated with the community and the authenticity and the behind the scenes look. And we're still doing that today.
Well, have you still sitting on all that archive footage and access to all that? Because there's definitely some good documentary style stuff that can come out of that these days looking back.
Oh, yeah, we have a lot. There is, throughout Europe, throughout Asia, throughout, just even the United States. One trip we went to the Olympic trials and our car broke down in New Mexico, and we didn't have any money for a hotel. So we stayed at in the van at the body shop, in Las Cruces, New Mexico. Yeah, that was a shady night. So we got through it.
So you mentioned you and your brother, track and wrestling were kind of the two things that kind of pulled you into this, but obviously the set of sports partners you have now is very expansive. So maybe just give a little bit of background, sort of what you cover these days, what some of your deals are, just again, to kind of paint that picture of sort of the scale of what the business is today compared to where you guys started off, as a van driving around.
Yeah. So, we're in 25 sports today. We sign, we have over 500 partners, going from sports like motorsports, where we work with NASCAR, obviously wrestling, USA Wrestling World Championship, NCAA. We have D1, D2, and D3 partners. We do some of the early season NCAA basketball and baseball tournaments, softball tournaments, some of the best tournaments in NCAA. We're doing the top track league in the world, in the Diamond League. Yeah, so we hockey, basically. Everyone underneath the NHL, AHL is our streaming partner. And what we find is, yes, the tier one leagues, they're going to get obviously their streaming and broadcasting, but they also get all this content and marketing and innovation from their broadcast partners. And it's really hard for tier 2 and tier 3 sports to get that kind of love. And they need that love to grow their audience, to the behind the scenes footage and marketing, to get the community to know why they should care. And that's what we can provide to these leagues and sports outside the major ones.
Mark, so for all these different partners that you're working with, or sports, depending on how you want to look at it, what exactly are you delivering for them? Because some of the deals and relationships that happen with platforms like yours can be just being a distribution channel. Some of it can be the production and giving your roots. I'm wondering if that's part of that mix as well. Are you already going end to end on the delivery side of things, or are they giving you a fee that you just ingest and do your own thing with? What's the mix there typically?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the partnership, right? We get the content in a variety of different ways. We produce content. We take feeds from content. We work kind of a mix where we'll make sure that we're helping with the technology. But in terms of just the partnership, if we're just taking the feed, that's not how we like to work, right? We want to make sure that we are growing the property. I mean, our mission at Flow from the beginning is to grow our sports every day. And so in terms of a great partnership, we're working with them on content. We're working with them on marketing. We're pushing them. We're either doing the production and trying to push it to elevate it, or we're pushing them and saying, hey, how do we get this to a higher quality? How do we get, better play-by-play or graphics in there? We really want to be pushing the envelope because, we got to make a great product for our customers, and our sports are not the top sports or the top leagues, and they're not going to grow if we're just doing it the same way they got us here, right? And so we really want to push the partners and ourselves to create content marketing, make it really exciting when our customers watch the content.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of StreamTime Sports, but we just wanted to draw your attention to what's next in the world of sports marketing. There's no doubt it's evolved, but now it's time to understand how. That's why we're introducing ImpactX, a bold new initiative from Sports Pro and Sportsquake. Launching on the 17th of June, we'll be showcasing groundbreaking work in some of the most impactful campaigns from the last 5 years. Join us as we break down why sports sponsorships work and how to execute it well in an all-new exhibition of sports marketing excellence. ImpactX, where creativity meets performance. Coming soon. Just remember to search Sports Pro ImpactX to find out more. You've sort of nicely segued us into something that I think we're going to spend a little bit of time talking on. We're talking about these tier 2, tier 3 partners, and you've referenced they're not getting the traditional broadcast deals at an ESPN, ABC, a Fox Sports, any of those. And it does seem like more and more money is getting, if there's a pie, more of that pie is going to those top tier sports. So what is the opportunity for tier 2 and tier 3 sports? Because you really are championing that. So for them, they're trying to make money off of their content the same way anyone else is. How large is the opportunity for those tier 2 and tier 3 sports? And then we can go into kind of, what some of those challenges are to maximize that value.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really large. I don't have a dollar amount on it, but there are so many different distribution platforms. There's so many different ways to get your name out there, to get your content out there. It is about having a plan and working with a partner to make sure that you're not just siloed in one area or the other, because what works today, as you know, we move fast, might not work tomorrow, right? And, not to jump to the next question, but with the degradation of the cable bundle does hurt these tier 2 and tier 3, because ESPN, the Amazon, et cetera, they really understand what is driving the signups. And then if they're spending billions of dollars on the NFL or the NBA in a direct to consumer world, right? They need to make sure that that's successful. And if they have the NBA, if they have the NHL, if they have the UFC, they really have a household, the majority of households, and it becomes harder for tier 2 and tier 3 to mix to fit into that mix, right? And so, from our perspective, we want to meet our fans where they are, and so obviously we have a direct to consumer aspect where you pay behind the paywall, but 100% of our content is not behind the paywall, right? We are putting we're putting live streams in front of the paywall. We're working with people like CBS and Fox, local linear, regional sports networks, and getting that content out there. Obviously, doing that on social and creating a bunch of content in front of the paywall to make sure that we're reaching the fans where they are and hopefully get them excited. And then at some point, if they want to watch the full season or the big game at the end of the year, they are subscribing. And you got to have that strategy as tier 2 and tier 3. You can't just go to one platform and just kind of be behind the paywall. You got to have all of it if you want to grow, at least that's our theory, want to grow your property.
So, Mark, can you just take us a bit into the type of relationship or arrangement you are having with those companies? Take it a little bit step deeper. You've given a few sort of parameters you work within or you try to facilitate and bring it to life with. There sounds like there's a bit of a distribution relationship there. There sounds like there's a production component.
Yeah.
Just in turn, and then often as an industry, we often talk about the media rights deals that you see in tier 1. Very, very There's a different type. There's a fairly formulaic way they approach things still, even though there's lots of different types of rights to go there. But I know at the tier 2, tier 3 level, it is much more nuanced. Just talk us through what's a typical relationship look like for you, and what doesn't it include, perhaps, as well as what it does?
So we are way more flexible, right? We work with the partner to be like, okay, what is a success for them, and then how does it fit with being a success for us? So I'll give the example of the CAA, and that's a D1 conference in NCAA, and our partnership with them is we have the vast majority of all the content that's streaming on FloSports. So if you're a super fan, you want to watch every game, you're gonna subscribe to Flow. But we also worked with CBS Sports Network, right? And so they have some of their top basketball games. It's important for them to be on that national platform. So we're working with CAA and CBS to be like, okay, what are the best games? Where do you want to get out there? And we work with them on that. Local linear or local regional is important for a bunch of the presidents and the ADs because they might have an older alumni base that's like, hey, I want to watch this stuff on TV, and when the football game's on, I want to turn on the TV. And so we work with CAA to facilitate that. And obviously there's pluses and minuses for all of that. And so we just work with our partners to figure out, hey, what's the best solution for them? And hopefully it aligns with us. And we figure out that partnership. And so I think that's a great example. We just did one with the Penn Relays, where Penn Relays and the Drake Relays in track and field are on the same weekend. CBS wanted to had the Drake Relays, and we suggested to CBS is, hey, it's a great day of track and field. Why don't you take the professional section, about 90 minutes of the professional section, and go from the Drake Relays to the Penn Relays? And so we worked with the Penn Relays and CBS and made it easy. We already had our production down there, made it easy to kind of expand that viewership for one of the best track and field meets in the world.
So, Mark, it does sound quite flexible. Just how do you approach that from the beginning? Are you signing, basically committing an agreement, a deal, a partnership in place that says that from the outset? So we're agreeing something. We're working together on this sort of journey as your broadcast media partner, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to ebb and flow with just where the best opportunity is at any given time, and then there'll be a bit of give and take along the way. Is that how it plays out, or because most times you see a traditional media rights deal, it's all 200-page media rights agreement where it's all every line of what's been agreed is locked away at the beginning, and there's not much flex after that. But it sounds like it's completely not that approach.
Yeah, we try to be great partners, right? And so like I said, we're trying to grow these sports and have a great experience for our customers. Obviously, there's a contract. It's not 200 pages, right? Hopefully, we're not looking at the contract after. That's the goal, is that we are working together with that partner. And if they want something and we can facilitate, and there's give and take there. And so, yeah, there's work to get to the contract, and we have that baseline, but we're always trying to find ways to have win-wins and grow Flow and grow the our partners.
Sure, but just how, when you say win-win, I'm just trying to get my head around this. So for other people out there who are looking at what you're doing, when you say win-win, are you basically coming up? So let's say the CBS example you gave with CAA, right? How does CBS pay anyone a fee there, or are you giving them access, and that visibility helps them get more sponsors on board and you more visibility because FloSports is visible? How does that play out?
It all depends, right? And so with the CAA, we knew that CBS was an important part of what they were trying to do. And so we had talk about that before the contract, right? And so that's in the contract, right? And, but they wanted a couple extra games. And so it's like, okay, what does it actually do to us? If there's more windows for CAA, we're going to be flexible there. And we have been flexible. And I think if you talked with Joey over at the CAA, we've tried our best to make sure that he gets some wins and it still works economically for us. Obviously, if someone's trying to take it all and it doesn't work economically for us, we're going to have to figure that out. But we try to be flexible. In a world where everyone is taking 100% of the pie, we don't think 100% of the rights. We don't think that's the best strategy for, again, for lack of a better term, tier 2 and tier 3 sports and leagues. It is, if you're trying to grow it's not to be under one platform, to be the 50th most important partner they have, right? That I don't think grows, the property.
In terms of business model, you mentioned, your direct to consumer subscription, but you've also just mentioned you don't put everything behind a paywall either. So, myself and Nick, we've had many guests, many conversations talking about what's the best way to monetize. Is it subscription? Is it advertisement? Is it a freemium model? Is it some sort of hybrid? For you guys, it does sound like, despite, you do put things in front of the paywall, there is most of the content's unlocked behind the paywall, just sort of how you view monetization models, particularly for those tier 2, tier 3 sports. I think sometimes Nick and I have talked about the smaller the sport you are, the more you might actually be able to charge because, there'd be such an affinity for your sport. And if there's nowhere else to do it, you could potentially charge a premium for it. So just a bit curious sort of how you guys have gone about your monetization model and diversifying a little bit so it's not all exclusively behind a paywall.
Yeah. So a business model and making sure that you have a profit around these properties is really important, especially in tier 2 and tier 3. Right. And so, at first starting Flow, everything was free. It was advertising. And what happened to our business is every dollar we spent on marketing, every dollar we spent on production kind of hurt the bottom line. And then we started going to places that only our advertisers wanted us to go, which then hurts the overall value for the customer, right? And so we found that subscription is really important in D2 and D3. I keep saying tier 2 and tier 3 sports, and because it is that baseline, it does make the business work. But having that mix of advertising, having that mix, a lot of times the free stuff in front of the paywall, that is just marketing and content for the property, right? And so because we have that base that if we drive more viewership, we're making more money, it incentivizes us to put more things in front of the paywall to a certain point, to market more, to create more content, which then in turn builds a bigger community, which then in turn allows you to, make more money off advertising. So we do think having a diversified revenue is important for these properties and aligns the best with the growth of that property as well, right? So our incentives are aligned. Distribution's important, viewership's important, but also making money is important because that allows us to invest back into higher production quality, innovation in terms of graphics, innovation in terms of AI cameras, bringing in better play-by-play people, et cetera, et cetera. You need that diversification to do that.
So, Mark, the advertising side of things in streaming seems to be maturing more and more these days. You said you sort of started with that as like one of the primary revenue drivers for you. Firstly, what are you seeing there? Are you seeing it maturing? Are you seeing more advertising dollars really coming into the marketplace now, or is it still really challenging to unlock those advertising dollars, given that sort of a lag, I guess, you have between streaming consumption and traditional media?
I mean, if you're Amazon and you're going to have 15 million people watch Thursday Night Football, it's going to be easy, right? Where some of the most properties are not getting 15 million, views on again, it's the tier one, it's the NFL, the NBA, those Olympics are going to be fine because they have this scale. Again, with direct to consumer, like you really have to understand your customers to get people to pay behind the paywall. And so for us, advertising, and for, what I would say, for most streamers, it's not about this, the 15 million, because people can't drive that. It's going to be more about the sponsorships. It's going to be, hey, where are you reaching on social? If you're just streaming the ads in the live broadcast, it's not mature, right? But you got to have that kind of 360 sponsorship, social strategy, and the live stream on the ground as well. All four of those things, if you're going to build up the advertising, at least in our opinion.
And then you're talking about expansion and maintaining profitability. Obviously, you've grown more and more sports. I guess as the company continues to grow, how do you select, prioritize, whichever way you want to frame the question, where you want to go in terms of new growth areas or new sports?
Mm-hmm. Well, first and foremost, places where we're needed. Right. And so people always ask, are you going to go up the food chain and go to the NFL, try to do NFL and NBA? It's like, no, we're not needed there. Right. Amazon doesn't, ESPN does an amazing job. NBC does an amazing job. Like, we're not going to be able to compete or want to compete against Amazon. Right. And we're not needed there. Right. And so we go places where we're needed and where we think that our model can grow the property, can bring innovation on the production, raise the quality, and places where the community is going to be excited that we're coming in. On top of that, we have a ton of data. We've been doing this for a long time. We track everything, and so we definitely have an algorithm to understand the value of partnerships, to understand the value of sports. And then we look at it and say, okay, can we get into this space? How hard is it going to be to get in this space? And then we determine which sports to go into, and then really what partnerships to sign up.
So, Mark, you've got a whole host of different partners that you've referred to, and within your platform, you have basically different channels within it, which is quite not an uncommon approach in terms of having different channels available in a main platform. Did you ever think about trying to create more white labeled kind of options? So basically, that FloSports, I don't know, athletics, as a standalone itself rather than pulling them all together? Or was it always trying to just build the biggest audience possible using all those different partnerships together?
Yeah, again, kind of going back to tier 2 and tier 3 is like we need as much scale as possible. And if we can convince the motorsports fan that they should like their local AHL team, that's something that we should be trying to do. Right. And so not only do you have like the specific sports, we want to be able to market. We want to be able to market it across channel, but then you go to some, maybe even some competitors that are white label just for that league. Like we are totally against that, because that really, I think, limits the exposure that you get. Right. And so you want to be able to have the community and more people have access to the property than just your specific super fan. So we're always trying to figure out, hey, how do we grow this audience? How do we grow this property? Because if we get really good at it, then we're very valuable to partners.
So you have no doubt you've done plenty of analysis on this platform with all these different channels, and your example there's a great one of trying to move fans from one sports channel to another and so forth. You've got hundreds of thousands of subscribers or more. I don't know the number. I can speculate till the cows come home. But how do you shift them from? Well, actually, do you have any insight? I'm sure you do, as to how many of those do buy subscriptions across multiple, or normally do you see them maybe consuming a bit of the front of the paywall stuff across a multitude of sports, but maybe you're just subscribing to one sports property or sports channel alone? What's the mix like? The typical trend.
Yeah. And so, they definitely come in for their one property, right? That's what they're passionate about. That's the easiest way to get them in. And then we just start dripping and marketing other properties. So if we have, a big motorsports event where we'll have more than, a couple 100,000 people watching, we'll be marketing other content from that and making sure they know that part of their subscription is they get access to all this other stuff. And then same thing in terms of marketing, right? If we know that we're marketing on these different channels, we got to be careful about it because we don't want to be inauthentic. But if we do think that there's some crossover, we will promote other sports and other events to the different sports audiences.
But do you find that is effective though? Are you able to get a lot of subscribers moving cross sports as well? Because that would be just something I think would be a challenge to overcome.
For sure. It's growing. We've only really started pushing this over the last 12 to 18 months as our audience has grown and we're getting these big events, right? So, but it's definitely more and more people that are watching motorsports are watching AHL and wrestling. And so, it is growing. It's not 50% yet, but it's starting to get there.
One thing that I want to kind of shift us over to, because we could talk about it quite a bit, and there's a few interesting angles on this. Nick and I covered FloSports. Geez, it must have been maybe 4 weeks ago, when you were just coming off your most recent funding round, which, you talked about getting $10,000 when this all started. You got a significantly larger number. I believe it says the funding's up to around or just over 100 million now. And there's a couple different things we'll entangle with that. But I think the one bit that's really interesting stood out that Nick and I spoke spoke about, was the involvement of Dream Sports over in India. We've been following their business on, the things that they're doing on their side. And that was just really interesting. I'd be curious just to get a little bit of insight from you, sort of how that developed, because as far as I'm aware, the majority of what you're doing is North American based. So for someone like Dream Sports to come in from India, it's sort of like, where's that string been attached?
Yeah. So Dream Sports, came in about a month ago. We've been talking to them for over a year. They're great people. I don't know if you've ever talked to them. Harsh over there runs an amazing organization. Super impressive what they've done for that country. They have a FloSports product called Fan Code over there, and they're seeing success, and they liked what we're doing here. Obviously, we're doing some things a little different than they are, but they liked what we're doing there, and I think they can see that there will be synergies between our two platforms on that front. And then what they're doing in terms of daily fantasy is definitely something, and their know-how, it's unbelievable. If you go, we were there a month before the IPL, but what they're doing in cricket and how many people they have coming 30 minutes before every cricket match, because that's when the lineup is sent, is pretty unbelievable. And we would love to bring some of that to some of our sports here in the United States. So I think there's a lot of synergies and a lot of things that we can do together.
So, Mark, what obviously you've congratulations on raising the investment that you to really keep driving the business forward. Just what is that investment going to go to? Where are the main areas of focus now moving forward?
Yeah, so it is really just focused on the customer. We just launched our next gen wrestling product. So it's in beta to about 25% of our audience. And I'm not happy with the level of product that we've had over the last couple of years for our customers. And so, we are working to integrate better streaming technology, to be on more apps and TVs, integrate the data that we have exclusively on our platform, making sure that our experience for these sports and leagues is as good as any NFL experience, right? And so accelerating that push on top of making sure that the broadcast just continues to elevate. Same thing, right? Like, how do we make sure that when our customers log on and they watch a cheerleading event or a motorsports event, they're like, man, this is the highest quality I've ever seen for our sport. And so to do that costs money, and we want to be efficient about it. And so we're investing in AI cameras, building our own models to make sure that we continue to drive higher quality, but keep the costs down, right? The business model has to work. We can't be, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on content in our sports right now for X amount of hours. We have to drive that down to how do we get to low thousands and still have a great broadcast. And so pushing those forward, but it's really focused on the customer and having the best product and video experience that they have had in sports.
So making those investments into the production and the end product that your customers are consuming, where's the revenue growth coming from? Is it just you're hoping to reduce churn rates, increase subscription acquisition, and just build the business through basically just delivering better product to the market? Or are there other layers you're adding into that you think can drive up extra return on your investment into the product?
No, we're pretty confident that the business will sustain in terms of, yes, high, get with better production, you get people to stay longer, you get more people to sign up, you get more partners want to be with you, right? With a better product, they're going to be stickier. Again, same thing. They're going to be wanting to sign up. We're going to have, we have a list of new products we can add to the subscription. But in general, like if we treat our customers well, we give them a great product, more people will sign up and they'll stay longer. And so that's our maniacal focus on making a better product for our customers.
Just that one of the things you hear, Mark, happen that people talk about in the market is subscription fatigue from some of these major platforms because it's so competitive. Do you find because you're serving a different audience set there or producing a different product, that's not really the same sort of issue that you hear talked about at the main streamer level? The big tech streamer level where they're all fighting at a low price point for market share the whole time.
Yeah, I tend not to believe that we need that stuff will happen to us or accept that. Our audiences are obviously super passionate because they're fans of these sports, right? Everyone can be a fan of the NFL, but if you're a fan of cheerleading or if you're a fan of dirt track motorsports, like you're a fan, and we believe that we are actually the best value in the sport, and this is the last thing that you would want to cut, right? And so that's our mentality. We haven't seen subscription fatigue impact us, and I think that if we continue to focus on our customers' needs, we will do fine.
I'm going to come back to the investment from Dream Sports. With that being, an Indian-based company, does that potentially mean FloSports is at all looking to expand internationally? Tier 2 and Tier 3 sports aren't limited just to the U.S., and I really appreciated your answer earlier being about we're looking to expand where we're needed. Do you feel there's a need to expand internationally? Is that not something that's necessarily on the cards? Because I guess these tier of sports, they don't just struggle in the U.S. to get coverage on broadcast, or is it something at the moment you guys are still focused on the American marketplace?
Yeah, just the problem exists everywhere, and we've seen, I'll call them mini FloSports, pop up in all these different regions. We don't need to go international, but again, we will go where we think it'll be valuable. For example, jiu-jitsu is really big in Brazil, right? And so we've acquired and partnered with BJJ Stars, which is a big Brazilian show. And we're working with people on the ground there. And we have Portuguese play-by-play. We have Portuguese sign-up funnel. So we're definitely in Brazil for jiu-jitsu. In Canada, we have the best cycling package there is, the Tour de France, the Gira, the Vuelta de España. We have we had French play-by-play to the Tour de France, et cetera, et cetera. We own a racing series with Kyle Larson, NASCAR champion Kyle Larson, and his brother-in-law Brad Sweet, called High Limits. We took that to Australia. So dirt track racing in Australia is really big down there, and so we will be doing more in Australia. So on top of what we'll decide what we'll be doing with Dream. But yes, I mean, we're not like, oh, we're going to go to Germany and do XYZ. It's about, hey, the sport. And hey, is this sport have a following in the US and some other place? Is this a place that we should be focusing on? We just had cheerleading worlds, and in cheerleading in the UK is growing. So we did some things in there. So that's kind of the approach we'll take.
So Mark, marketing these channels and propositions, you've got really strong fan bases connected with these sports and partners you've got. How much is it you pushing the marketing effort to get them onto platform, and how much is, I don't know if you can give us understanding like the split of that effort versus the actual partners themselves doing the marketing, because they have that already a direct relationship with the fan in some instances that through various social channels and other means, if they're members, players, athletes, etc. What's the strategy there to bring that to life? Because it can be a tricky balance to get everyone pulling in the right direction, I'm sure.
Yeah, that can be tricky. But that's why the community aspect is so important, right? And that's why you can't like separate these things. It's like we're all in this together, right? And like if when I was running track and field, I was trying to make sure anyone that knew or cared about it knew when it was on NBC, right? Like we're in this together to grow this sport, and we're not trying to get 100% of the pie, right? We want our nice little portion of the pie, but we want the pie to grow. And so it is the partners, and we're going to give them tools. We're going to tell them, hey, what we need. And I'm sure they're going to give us advice on what we need to do. It's us. It's the fans. It's the athletes, right? And when we do it right, and we're authentic and people realize we're in it for the right reason, we're in it to grow the sport, then that's when it works really well. I think motorsport's a perfect example, right? Like Dale Earnhardt Jr., right? He's a great partner, right? We work with him on the Cars Tour. And I mean, he is just talking about the sport in general, and then he's talking about flow, right? And it's like, it's because he loves the sport and we love it too. We're trying to grow it too. He understands that. And so there's nothing fake about it. He just knows that we're working our butt off to grow his properties and all the properties in motorsports. So then people like him or Kyle Larson or Kyle Busch, they're talking about flow and helping grow this thing. And so it's really all of us together. This is not the NFL. And like, hey, how do we can't be picky, and we need everyone to promote these sports and leagues.
Question for me, we've talked and you guys are very narrowly focused, and I appreciate the fact that you guys, you know what you are. Like you said, we're going to go where we think we're needed. But what do you potentially learn from other people? What trends do you follow? Like you said, you're not going to try to be the partner of the NFL or the NBA, but what do you pay attention to? What sort of trends maybe impact what you think about at FloSports? I mean, surely there are things you're looking at a larger scale. Just be curious, because it's so dynamic. RSNs are failing in the US, or they're apparently struggling. You're seeing people like Netflix come in. Like, I know some of those stuff are quite high level that might not directly impact you, but just curious, what sort of trends that you do follow on a larger scale.
Yeah, we follow it all, right? Like, I mean, Pat McAfee, right? Like, what he does is amazing, right? It's not stuffy. It's just like so authentic. And then you see the people that used to be in ties, on their iPhone during a broadcast. It's like, okay, like, we can't be stuffy here. Like, we're launching the Athlete Lounge for the Diamond League, and we're like, dude, it is the Athletes Lounge. We're not stuffy. If it's stuffy, it's a total failure. If things break because we have someone calling in from Doha, that's cool, right? Like, we need to make this fun and authentic, right? How all of them are using influencers, how, the broadcast. I was watching a recent broadcast in the graphics, and it's like, hey man, how do we bring, on, I think TNT or TBS is doing a good job during the playoffs where they're putting the name over the hockey, the player, right? It's like, hey, how are we bringing that to motorsports? How are we bringing that to hockey? How are we doing those things? And can we bring it at scale and spread the costs across all of our leagues so they get the TNT feeling for hockey when it's on Flow, or we're streaming, on a fast channel, for example. So like, we are always looking at it, trying to bring what the best people are doing to our properties.
Mark, early on, when you were setting the scene of who is FloSports, you mentioned the fact that you're a sort of tech business, and I was just curious to talk a bit more about that part of it. It sounded like you were doing some work on actually creating platforms for others as well.
No, I mean, not platforms for others, but the technology that kind of runs these sports. So if you think about how the broadcast and the media is behind the times in a lot of these sports, and we're trying to bring it forward, so is the tech. So wrestling, for example, we own a meet registration, a event management, and a results data company, right? We do that so we can add graphics to all types of broadcasts. We do that so we can add stats to all types of broadcasts, to get that data, to make the user experience better so you can follow your athlete. So we do that in track and field. We have one in motorsports. We have one in hockey. We're launching one in cheerleading. And so, if you're watching the hockey broadcast and you want to know the data from any one of these leagues, you can look on and see who scored. You can see, how much time's on ice, et cetera, just like if it was an NHL game. And so we need to invest in that technology along with the media if we're really going to grow these sports. So that's what we're doing on the tech side.
So, Mark, really, I guess the final question, sort of to wrap things up, is you've had a lot of growth and you've raised investment. You're looking to take the next step. Lots of opportunity, by the sounds of it, still to keep growing the pie from your existing partners. Are there any particular challenges that you and indeed the industry are still really facing to maximize the value of the industry you're working in today and trying to serve?
Well, I mean, it just goes back to our original business problem. It's like, this is a very fragmented space. And from the beginning, it's like, if people aren't working together in these spaces, everyone has their little fiefdoms, and if people aren't working together, you're not going to grow. And so, that has always been the challenge for these sports and leagues. And it will continue to be. And we try to do our best. We try to work with partners. That's why we're trying to, we work with, all types of partners, because we know that, hey, if we can grow the pie, we're going to grow. But that is always the biggest challenge. And it's not just the leagues and the sports properties. Sometimes it's the athletes or the coaches. And I mean, you wouldn't believe, right? And I'll even say, like, Penn Relays and Drake Relays are big track and field events. They decide to do it on the same day. You're like, what are you doing? Can't you guys just, like, 1 year you go first and 1 year you go that, and then maybe work together? And so you're like, hey, if you win Penn and then win Drake, right, like, maybe work together. No, they're not working together.
It was that easy.
So we're trying. We tried really hard, so now we have the same broadcast. But, like, just, there are some entrenched kind of activities that you'd be like, hey, can we just work together? Even though you're a competitor, can we work together so we can grow this? We're trying, man.
Yeah. Mark, I appreciate you taking the time to come on today. Like I said, we spend quite a bit of time talking about how tier 2, tier 3s can survive, because there's only so many tier 1s, and we know that they're actually the majority when it comes to how many properties are out there. So knowing the story you guys have had, you're talking back, as far as 2006, you guys are continuing to grow, the investment that's coming in. Clearly, you guys have built a product.
Gray hair.
You understand.
Gray hair. Jeez, I'm getting old. I'm looking on this screen. I'm like, I don't like what I look like. Jeez.
Sorry. Well, we appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us. Like I said, it's good to hear from some folks. We speak to the NFLs, the NBAs, but it's good to speak to some people that are working on that smaller scale and proving that there is a way to make it work.
Yeah, there's definitely a way to make it work. And if you think about the long tail, yes, very fragmented, but it's as big as the head of the tail. So we're working on that.
Good stuff, Mark. Thanks so much. Looking forward to following your journey.
All right. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Now, before you go, if you liked what you heard today, be sure to rate and review and just let me know what you think on social. You can find me on most social platforms as SportsProNick. And please do spread the word of the podcast. There's no better way of marketing than word of mouth, whether that be in person or on social media. And if you don't like what you've heard, or you think we should be doing more or less of something, then reach out and let me know, as I'd love to hear from you. Thanks, Streamtimers. Until next time.